From Relay FM, this is Upgrade, episode 507 for April 8th, 2024. Today's show is brought to you by Delete Me, AdBlock Pro, Fitbod, and Vitally. My name is Myke Hurley, and I have the pleasure of being joined by Casey Liss.
Hello,
Welcome
Myke.
to the show, Casey Liss.
My triumphant return. We're going to go with that.
We're going to get to that in a little bit, but to start off, I have a Liss Talk question for you, and it comes from listener Justin. How many Apple Watch bands do you have, and how often do you change them?
So I'm gonna bring some interesting energy to the show immediately and tell you, Myke, that I saw that this was in the show notes document. And I thought to myself, you need to go and look at how many Apple Watch bands you have so you can answer this question when it's time to record. And then Michaela has been sick for the last few days and everything's been upside down and topsy-turvy. And so I neglected to go and actually count.
No, this is good. This is
you.
the energy I expected from you.
I'm not sure if I should be offended or not, but we're just going to plow forward. So off the top of my head, so this is actually a very complicated question because I used to rock the larger size watch. I believe it was a 42 millimeter, if I'm not mistaken, at the time. You're the watch person, so you tell me. But I think at the time it was 42 millimeters. And then when it did the switch from 42 to 44, something broke in my brain, and I somehow decided that was just impossibly too large for my little wrist. And so whatever year that was, it was several years ago now, I switched and I came down to, 38 millimeters now? I think it used to be 36. Now it's 38, something along those lines. And so now Aaron and I are on the same size watch, and thus we can share watch bands. And that means, although I accrued, I would guess, between 5 and 10 watch bands over the course of my 42 millimeter time, I now had access to all of Aaron's watch bands, and I was, since in the last couple of years, I've brought some of my own to the party. On the occasions we get, I get a new Apple Watch, whatever the case may be. So I would guess, all told, that of the small size watch bands, which is the ones that are relevant right now, because I'm wearing a small size watch,
41 millimeter watch.
Is it? No, is it?
Yeah, it used to be 38, but now it's 41.
Wow, I had that all wrong. I'm thankful for that correction. So thank you. So anyway, so of those size bands, I would guess we have 10-ish that are almost exclusively sport or sport adjacent bands. We don't have like I did have a Milanese, a knockoff Milanese, whatever it's called, for the big one, but we don't have any of those for the small ones. I think Aaron has one with like a traditional clasp on it, like the pokey through the metal pokey bit. I'm not talking the pin on the sport band. You know what I'm talking about? Like the rectangle, and you have a little pokey bit, like on a belt.
Is it an Apple one, or is it a third party?
No, it's a knockoff.
Okay, we just call it a class. We'll just call it a class for fun.
There you go. But the only time I generally switch watch bands, there's 2 times I switch watch bands. The first time is I really like the completely featureless, just band of silicone or whatever it is, silicone thing. What do they call that? Like the sport something or other, where there's no holes in it.
Oh, so not the sport band. You like just the fluoroelastomer solo loop.
Yes,
I don't know if they still
That's
call
what
it.
I'm thinking
It's liquid silicone rubber. It's the fluoroelastomer was what the original ones were made of.
Okay, so the solo loop, that's what I was thinking of. So I really like the solo loop, but in my experience, they last approximately 3 to 6 months before I somehow get a cut in them, and then they immediately just give way. And
what, really? You cut them? Yeah. They break on you?
They break. I've had 2 or 3, and every single one of them is broken, which is really
I'm
bummer.
not a fan of that. I don't like the idea of just pulling a piece of I don't.
Yeah.
What they remind me of is when you go swimming and you have a locker key and it's on a little band that you have to put and I don't like that experience.
I get that. Yeah,
so
I get that.
Never dug those ones.
Yeah, I like them, even though I like on the traditional sport loop, which is what I typically wear, I like being able to bring it 1 notch tighter when I'm actively working out, because I've told myself that helps with heart rate monitoring. That may or may not be true. That's just what I've told myself. But in any case, so when I get a new watch, I will inevitably go back to the solo loop, and then 6 months later, I will regret it. And then I will return to my some flavor of deep-ish blue Apple branded sport. What is this traditional, the standard issue sport band?
Sport band?
There you go. Okay, so that's what I'm wearing right now. It's like a bluish sport band with, the pin and the holes and whatnot in the smaller of the available sizes. But when it's football season in the fall, and by that I mean American football, we have season tickets to Erin's my wife's alma mater, the University of Virginia. And so what I'll do is I'll typically take one half of this blue sport band and one half of an orange sport band, because that's their school colors is blue and orange. And I will mix them together, if you will. So I'll have an orange and blue setup that I'll put on for that Saturday. And then I will take it off on Sunday and go back to my traditional blue, or occasionally I'll wear green. But
that reminds me of, do you remember when Apple did the Olympic watch bands? And they had like bands for every country. They were weird and fun. So very cool. Thank you for that extensive information.
Sorry that we're already on a journey and we're one question in.
I'm putting in the show notes an app called Bandbright, which Zach put in the Discord, which is like an iPhone app to track your band selection. Very clever. I think we spoke about this before. I've mentioned it before. In the UK, Apple calls them straps, not bands.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because that's what we call it. Like, we call it a watch strap, not a watch band. But like when you go to the Apple website, it says straps instead of bands. My current favorite Apple Watch band is it's one of the Ultra ones. I think it's called the Trail band. I'm also ill prepared. So I haven't got the Alpine loop. It's the Trail loop. I also have the Ocean band, which I kind of like, but the orange beige Trail loop is my current favorite. But they get a bit dirty, right? Because it's like the sport loops, not sport the sport. Oh man, the sport loop. It's like that. It's that kind of like Velcro-y feeling, you know. So they get a little bit dirty. But I also love the magnetic link, but the ones made of leather, not the fine woven one. When they announced the fine woven, I bought one of the leather ones, another one, because I used one on my previous watch and kind of wore it out. I love it in blue, and now I have this other one. Sometimes I change into that one if I want to dress up my Apple Watch. But it's difficult to dress up the Apple Watch Ultra, in my opinion. It was easier to dress up my gold stainless steel. I had the gold Milanese, which I still have, but don't have a watch that's really good to wear it with.
Right. I got that. And also, real-time follow-up. I forgot to mention, I have one of the original official Apple Pride bands. I think it's like a Velcro-y one. Yeah. And I actually really like that one. I haven't had it on in a few months now, but I really like that one and occasionally switch to that one too. I forgot about that.
That's the Sport Loop band.
Yes, I think that's right. Yep.
So it feels similar in construction to the Trail Loop. Thank you so much to Justin for sending in that question. If you would like to send in a question of your own to help us open the show, just go to upgradefeedback.com and you can send it in. Casey, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm so pleased to be here.
So Jason's away. He's looking at the sky today, so he's looking at the eclipse. You have any interest in the eclipse?
I do, but Virginia is not terribly close to the path of totality. And so I think it's starting like as we're ending the show for me anyway. Perfect. It's going to start as we're ending the show
we'll see.
Today. Or
so, allegedly. The show's going to go, you know?
Yeah, right. Well, given we went 10-ish minutes on Snell Talk / Liss Talk, this may be a 4-hour adventure. But nevertheless, it should be starting sometime around, I think, 2 or 3 in the afternoon, my time. And it's currently shortly after noon as we record. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, I'm interested in it, but it's not. If I see it, great. If I don't, I'm not gonna weep about it. I wasn't about to go out of my way to do it, probably because I've just been very busy recently and couldn't handle trying to put all that effort together. But no, I mean, it's certainly fun. We had one go through Virginia, and I think it was either a total eclipse or darn near one several years ago now. It was probably 6-7 years ago, and that was really cool. And I prepared, a pinhole like viewing thing out of an old Tom Bin box, and that was neat. But this time I've done absolutely nothing to prepare other than tell the kids don't look at the sun.
Perfect. That's probably the most important thing, to be honest. Don't look at the sun, kids. Use that as just like a general rule. Since you were on the show last time, you have released your fabulously popular application Call Sheet. Can you give the elevator pitch for Call Sheet?
So Call Sheet, if you're not familiar, is an app that lets you look up cast and crew information and information about TV shows and movies and things like that. And it does it super fast, and it's pretty well designed, if I may be so bold as to say so. You can get a lot of information very quickly, and it tries to do well with respecting its users. So there's no pop-ups, there's no advertising. It is a subscription app, although you get 20 searches for free. There's features for preventing spoilers. So the canonical example for this, no spoilers, is that I was watching the incredible HBO miniseries Watchmen several years ago, and one of the characters in that show, I will not specify which, they have dual roles, like they have a secret identity, right? And I looked at the Internet Movie Database, IMDb, to see information about these different actors and actresses and whatnot, and I saw, oh, Joe Smith is character A / character B, and I didn't know about the secret identity yet. And I was years later, I'm very upset by this. And so one of the things that Call Sheet allows you to do for TV shows anyway is that you can say, well, I don't want to see character names, or I don't want to see how many episodes they're in case, this character is killed off after 3 episodes or what have you. Or I don't want to see the thumbnails for the episodes and things like that. And the other nice thing about it is for things like TV episodes and movies where there's a concrete and discrete release date, in the list of the cast and the crew and whatnot, it'll actually show, okay, well, this person was 38 years old when this was released. This person was 43 years old. And maybe that sounds a little silly, but for me, I always am curious as to, how old actors and actresses and crew are.
I was just doing the thing, which I'll be able to tell people about in a couple of weeks. And it was helpful for me to be able to see the people in this movie because, just to see how old they were. I actually found that useful because the movie was on the older side. So that was pretty cool. Call Sheet is available wherever you have your Apple platforms, right? So it's on the iPhone, iPad, Mac, and even on Vision Pro as well, which I think is a nice addition if you have a Vision Pro and you're watching movies. And of course, there'll be a link in the show notes, and people should go check it out. It's one of my favorite apps of the last couple of years, and not just because Casey's my friend. It's just a genuinely very good application that I use every couple of days at least to look something up. So it's fantastic.
Well,
good
thank
work.
you. I appreciate it.
We have some follow-up. Now, you weren't on last week's episode, but I think you'll understand the follow-up anyway. So we were talking about leaks. So we had the Andrew Oede leak story, and an anonymous person wrote in to say, I just wanted to say that I worked for Apple in their hardware division for close to 8 years, and I was reached out to by at least 5 reporters in that time, and I know a bunch of folks who have the same experience. I'd like to point out that in my anecdotal experience, reporters reaching out is far more common than the other way around. Not a surprise to me.
No, definitely not. It's not a surprise that it's flowing that direction, and yet at the same time, I kind of wonder, what is the reporter's play here? Just cruising LinkedIn and trying to find people who list their employer as Apple and just cold calling them or whatever.
Well, you want sources, right?
I guess. I don't know. I don't have the gumption to do that.
Well, think about it, right? If you're at Mark Gurman now, right? It's all good. You know what I mean? He's getting people coming to him all the time. But if you're starting up or you're lower in the rank, maybe Mark Gurman 10 years ago, how did those connections get built?
Yeah, that's fair.
This is a way to do it.
Wasn't there some sort of story? I might be making this up, but I thought there was a story that one of his initial sources was his girlfriend or his girlfriend's brother or something like that years ago. I don't know if that's true or not.
You are half remembering a story.
Okay.
That I'm not sure if it was a story that was public or it was a story that has been shared around over the years, but I'm pretty sure I've heard it on podcasts too, and I think I've even mentioned it, that a source of his was a sibling of someone who worked at Apple, and that person got fired.
I see. Okay.
Gotcha. That is the story as I know it, but it could be hearsay.
I gotcha.
Either
way,
that's what you're remembering.
Yeah, I think you're right. And either way, I mean, your point is completely fair that somehow, some way, you need to build up this clientele is not the right word for it, but this list of sources. And I guess cold calling might work. I guess if you happen to hit that disgruntled employee at the right moment, but I don't know. I'm surprised it works enough that people actually execute on it. But
maybe it doesn't work though.
That's fair.
It's a thing that people try. It doesn't mean it's going to work. I think that people that are likely to want to share this kind of stuff, they're probably actively attempting to do that rather than getting that email and being like, oh yeah, now's the time to spill the beans.
Exactly.
We've been talking a lot about immersive video. Apple has announced that a new episode of the Prehistoric Planet immersive video series for Vision Pro will be released on April 19th. So,
indeed, imagine my surprise as I was preparing for the show and I looked in the show notes and I saw that there's a new episode coming, and I said there is.
Yeah,
so
I've got 11 days to prepare.
My body is ready.
of all of the immersive video, this was actually an episode that I couldn't finish. I want to go back to it, but the initial shots of this, it's kind of like drone footage going towards an island, and it's like movement. It's there to make me feel, I think, a little bit motion sick, which I'd never experienced before. And so I bailed out of that. But I do want to go back and watch it, so maybe I'll check it out another time. But you shared something with me, which is kind of immersive video. It's not from Apple, although I think Apple was quite heavily involved in this. I think just judging by the way some of the things look in the video and some of the products used in the video. But there is a Gucci app which features in the Vision Pro version an interactive video documentary about Gucci's new creative director, Sabato De Sarno, and it shows his first fashion show, which I think was in the end of last year, beginning of this year, I think. It's basically a 20-30 minute video showing his first fashion show, but as you're watching the video in like a window, a regular video window, things are breaking out and like taking over an immersive space around you or being in your environment. It's really cool, and you can pause the video at certain points and look at the products and look at his sketches of the collection that he put together. This is the kind of stuff that, like, these little things come out and you're like, oh, there you go. Like that's something, right? Like that's one of the reasons to have this thing. Like it's experiences like this one. It's very cool. Where did you find it?
So this was emailed to the ATP feedback by Jason F. And they had said, like, this is incredible. I can't believe nobody's talking about it. I had never even heard of it.
Well,
and
it's just in the Gucci app. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, like,
yeah.
Not really a thing that me and you are checking frequently.
Exactly. So one way or another, I only had the chance to watch the first 5, maybe 10 minutes so far, and I do plan to watch the rest because
it's really worth
I went
your
into
time.
this.
It's also just a well-made documentary. Like, it's just a well-made little documentary.
It is absolutely worth your time. And so, like, a couple of quick examples from the first 5 minutes. There's at one point where they're talking about like train tracks. I forget the context, but there was some sort of like train, or maybe they were doing a photo shoot at a tram or whatever. And so you're, like Myke had said, imagine a rectangle where you're watching this video, and then suddenly there's like train or tram or whatever tracks extending out, not from the inside of the rectangle, like above or behind the rectangle. It's like the background suddenly becomes train tracks or tram or what have you. And then this tram car just comes in like a 3D tram car. This is totally outside of your rectangular viewing window. It just comes in from the side of your available, visual space and just kind of parks for a second and chills. And then there was another part where they were talking about that the fashion show was going to be in this like area. I forget what city it was. It doesn't really matter, but some Italian city. Oh, it was Milan. Okay, thank you. So in Milan, this small corner of Milan, there's like this cobblestone area, and it leads up to a church. And so you're looking at this in a standard, rectangular viewport. And then all of a sudden, the stuff that's going on behind the viewport, instead of your desk or your living room or wherever you're watching this, it becomes a 3D rendering of that like street corner, if you will. And so you see the church right there in front of you. And it's not subtle. Subtle isn't the word I'm looking for, but it's
immersive. It's very immersive.
It's very immersive, and it's not immersive in the sense like the Apple demo stuff is, which I love. I'm not trying to throw shade on the Apple demo stuff, but the entire experience is immersive, and you can look around and see different things and whatnot.
How do you take a regular video and complement it with VR elements? That's what they've
exactly
done. Where the video is just the video. It's not altered by the fact that you're wearing it in the Vision Pro, but the environment around the video screen is enhanced.
Yep, that's
this
very,
is the
very
kind
well
of stuff
described.
Where you see it, and it's like, these are the things that can be done. Like, these are the things that somebody... You see these little breadcrumbs, and like you understand how early we are in it. Like, I gotta say, I find it frustrating that people are saying that the Vision Pro is dead. Like,
yeah, agreed.
It's too soon.
It's way too soon.
And I think that these are the types of experiences that will exist, and we're going to talk about another one later on in the episode, where they become these little green shoots that can become something bigger in a few years' time, which in my opinion, was the whole point of this in the first place. And we're getting there. And like, to me, this was another example of this, of like, oh, this isn't an immersive video. It's not a regular video. I'm not watching this video inside of a movie theater environment. I'm watching this video, and then all of a sudden I'm being delighted and surprised by these things that are popping up. And then for something like a Gucci runway show, the fact that I can look at AR versions of the products and move them around, make them bigger and smaller, and take a look at the bags and the shoes and the jewelry, like, that's fantastic for Gucci, right? Because now I can experience that, be like, oh, that fashion show was beautiful. These clothes are amazing. Let me look at this bag. So I think it's a very, if you have a Vision Pro, take the 20 minutes and watch this. It's also just one of those things which I love, of a story of a creative person and how they overcome challenges to produce something. It's really cool.
Yeah. Again, I only saw the first 5, maybe 10 minutes, and it was 100% worth your time. And like Myke was saying, I like that it's kind of like 2.5D in that the video is the video. It's a regular 2D video. Myke has said it a couple times. I'll reiterate that. But everything is happening around it. It's like, Salt Bay just sprinkled a little like 3D on top of a regular, or immersion, I guess is a better way to put it, on top of a regular 2D video. It's very, very clever and very, very well done. And I could not care less about fashion. It is not my thing. Do not care. And I was riveted in the 5 or 10 minutes I was watching this. It is definitely worth your time.
This episode is brought to you by our friends over at Delete Me. Do you ever wonder how much of your personal data is out there on the internet for anyone to see? It can be a super uncomfortable thought, especially when you consider how much information could be out there that could lead to identity theft attempts, phishing issues, harassment, unwanted spam calls. The sad thing is that it's easier than ever to find personal information about people online. That is why so many people use and recommend Delete Me to protect their privacy. Delete Me finds and removes any personal information that you don't want online and makes sure that it stays off. It is a subscription service that removes your personal information from the largest people search databases on the web, and in the process helps prevent potential theft, doxing, and phishing scams, potential ID theft, obviously. You could just sign up and tell them what information you want deleted, and their experts will take it from there. And you'll get a regular personalized report that shows exactly what information was found, where Delete Me found it, and what they removed. This isn't just a one-time service. Delete Me is always working in the background for you, constantly monitoring and removing the personal information you don't want on the internet. This is actually a perfectly timed sponsor because I got my latest Delete Me report today, and I loved it because one of the things that they were able to show me was that some of the databases that they'd submitted to last time that take a bit of time for the information to be removed, they're like, yep, it's gone now. Oh, and we also found it on this one and that one. And what I also like is they continue to show me the places where they've searched before and that the information has not reappeared on them. It's just this thing that I get in my inbox periodically, and it just makes me feel like, okay, phew, maybe I'm going to get a few less spam emails, and also my information, which is important to me, is going to stay private. And it's the stuff that I asked, you asked Delete Me what you want them to be on the lookout for. And for me, it was my address, my phone number, my email. Like, if this stuff exists online, I don't want it there. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me now at a special discount for listeners of this show. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/upgrade20 and use the promo code upgrade20 at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/upgrade20 and enter the code upgrade20 at checkout. That is joindeleteme.com, joindeleteme.com/upgrade20 and the code upgrade20. Our thanks to Delete Me for their support of this show and Relay FM. It's time for everybody's favorite segment. It is DMA Today. Are you excited to be a part of DMA today, Casey?
I am overjoyed to be a part of DMA Today. Today will be a great day to do DMA Today.
The Verge has published a first look at AltStore, which is planning to be one of the first alternative app marketplaces in Europe. It's a really good piece. I have a couple of tidbits that I wanted to pull out of this article, but I recommend reading it. So one, with AltStore, apps can monetize via Patreon and offer the app as a perk, and you can link the two together. Two things that are interesting about this. One, there are other ways to pay for things. One of them is Patreon. But also, with Patreon, if you tie the app to a pledge, you can limit the amount of people that can claim that pledge So therefore,
Oh, yes, I see. Okay, yeah.
you as the developer could get out of the core technology fee. However, the alternative app marketplaces, how they're going to pay for their core technology fee, like that is different apps are doing it in different ways. Because if you're an app marketplace, you have to pay the core technology fee no matter what. Some are passing that on in the form of a subscription to the developers. AltStore, as of publishing this article, haven't announced how that's being done. But you as the developer still don't have to pay it until you hit that million threshold, where you could set the tier there and then maybe have a more expensive tier for the one after that if you hit that, right? So it gives you that flexibility in your business and the sense that the app couldn't just explode overnight because you're able to cap it. So that's cool. Apps in AltStore as well do things that other iOS apps cannot do. For example, there is an app that is shown off called Clip, which is a clipboard manager. Clip stays awake in the background using the MapKit APIs. So this is something that App Store apps can't do because you can't use the MapKit API for this. Apple will reject you. So, and what happens is if you select some text and press copy, you get a push notification immediately. It's like, hey, do you want to save that? And you can just interact with the notification and save. So it's like a true clipboard manager with a little bit of a weird workaround. But the fun thing about this is the MapKit solution was the solution that Notarization approved after some back and forth. No, but so it's existing, right? This is a feature an App Store app would be rejected for, but it's in AltStore, having gone through Notarization. Like the original method, whatever it was, for staying awake in the background, Apple said you can't do that via Notarization because it was like a misuse of an API, but they allowed the MapKit use. So interesting times. Of course, the Delta emulator for Nintendo games, old Nintendo systems, is in AltStore. That's Riley Tester, who created Delta, also created and is running AltStore, so obviously that would be in there. Do you have anything that you would like to mention about AltStore before I move on to the other emulator piece of news?
Just briefly, I don't run emulation software often, but on occasion, I'll have a reason to bust out an old video game from my childhood, and I cannot tell you how delightful it is to use like OpenEMU on the Mac and run Mega Man 2, which Declan was, I don't remember. Oh, no, Declan was playing Smash Brothers. That's what it was. My 9-year-old son was playing Smash Brothers and was asking about who Mega Man was. And I was like, oh, buddy, buckle up so we can talk about this. And so we ran upstairs to my Mac and I opened up Mega Man 2, which I spent just hours upon when I was roughly his age. Just hours and hours and hours on Mega Man 2. And being able to run old software in an emulator like that is so delightful, particularly when you have a controller. Like I have the 8-bit Do, I forget how you pronounce it. Anyways, the SN30 Pro that looks like a Super Nintendo controller, and I have that, and I hooked it up to my Mac, and it was delightful. Even though this is an NES game, still having a Super Nintendo controller was great. It is so much better than using a keyboard. And being able to do that on my phone, or even perhaps more so my iPad, which, well, although I guess the alternative stores are not coming to iPad, is that right?
Well, I mean, they're also not coming to you.
Well, yeah, fair. Yeah, that's a very good point. But in principle, being able to hook a controller up to my phone,
because Delta
Bluetooth,
allows
what
this,
have you,
to take that jump. That's one of the things that Delta would allow you to do.
And being able to play like an old NES or Super Nintendo game on my phone, like I don't think I would have the occasion to do it often, but being able to do it would be super cool. And this hardware is so good. Like, why wouldn't you want to, or at least be able to do that if you so desire? It would be very fun.
Great news for you, Casey Liss, because it might not just be Delta as the way to do this. So Apple has published yet another update to the App Store guidelines, one of them being that Apple now allows for emulators for, quote, retro game consoles in the App Store, noting that, quote, you are responsible for all such software offered in your app, including ensuring that such software complies with these guidelines and all applicable laws. This is a worldwide immediate change that allows for emulators.
Yeah, so in theory, I mean, I haven't seen Riley talk about this yet, but in theory, I don't see any reason why you couldn't have Delta on the regular, traditional worldwide app store, right? Or am I missing something?
In theory, unless Riley is doing things with Delta that would otherwise be outside of what's allowed, right? So
Sure,
like he
sure,
may
sure.
be, as you can see, using APIs that might not otherwise be available to a developer. But in theory now, we will start to see emulators appear on the App Store. And there's going to be a lot of them. And I'm really
sure
interested
there
to
will.
see how this works, because if you say this is an emulator for the Nintendo Game Boy, will Apple allow that? Like, you're not providing the ROMs.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, like, I'm really keen to see how this is going to go, because, like, what is a retro game console? Like, that's not defined.
Yeah.
Is the Nintendo Switch retro?
Depends on who you ask, I guess.
Is the 3DS retro? Like, how far back are we going?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
who's deciding the intellectual property law of this? Fascinating. But I look forward to playing Pokemon, I guess, or something. Like, having the opportunity to play Pokemon on my iPhone.
No, this is incredible. And I think you're right that the ownership side of the software is where this will get very, very interesting, both in the good and not so good ways. So to back up, you made mention a minute ago of ROMs. So the way this works for emulators is they typically do not provide any games to play. The emulator is the software that allows you to play a game, but you need to bring the game yourself. And so you need to, take a game cartridge and use a piece of hardware to download all of the bits on that game cartridge. And that's the ROM, the read-only memory from the cartridge. And then you put that in a file and you upload that file to your computer or to your phone or what have you, and then you can play the game.
I have a thing for the Game Boy that can do this.
Exactly. And as with all things, there are alternative approaches, which we do not condone here at Upgrade. But nevertheless, that's the question is like, what is Apple going to allow for this? How is Riley at Delta supposed to verify effectively that you have the cartridge for the ROM that you're providing? Is that Riley's responsibility?
Apple don't care. Not don't care, but like they're just going to be like, oh, it's your responsibility. So basically,
one would hope, yeah.
Basically what this is like they've just like, I think I've seen a lot of people say this, and I think it's true. It's like, I guess maybe they're fearful of the competition here or something. Like, I guess, right? So like, they figure that something like Delta is enough for people in Europe to want to install AltStore.
Oh, heck yeah.
Put it on the app, allow these on the App Store, and then people will get them from the App Store. But it's, for me, I see this as a, they wrote it in there. It's in the, you said that you will comply with laws. So when Nintendo comes to us, we're just going to send them directly to you. Like, that's the way this is going to go. Yep. So it's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out. I have yet to find an emulator in the App Store. It is a bit soon. But I am really keen to see who's first and how does this shake out.
A part of me is surprised that somebody like Riley, who granted is very busy right now, but somebody wasn't waiting in the wings, like ready to submit to app review.
There's no way anybody thought this was going to happen.
Well, but that's exactly what I was going to say, is that on the one side, like, how could you not be ready for this? But on the other side, there are hotter places in the world that would have frozen over before I would have expected this to happen, right? Like, I didn't think in a million years this would happen. And I think this is absolutely indication that what the EU is doing, it looks like it's working, because I think you're right. I think at least some of this is trying to get ahead of AltStore and trying to make sure that Apple's users don't have any particular justification for looking outside the App Store. And hey, turns out it sounds like a lot of people would love to run old games on their phones. So maybe we should allow for that. Imagine that, Apple. What a just fascinating concept.
It is a hard thing to allow, though. Like, it is. It's not even really a legal gray area in some instances.
Yeah,
like, it's
fair.
a legal gray area in many, but in some it's just like, no, this is bad. Because like, where do they draw the line? Like, we just had all this stuff with Nintendo killing the Yuzu emulator, which was for the Switch, which I think is a bit aggressive. And I'm not surprised, and I don't really have a problem with Nintendo going after that one. But when you go back to something like the Game Boy, it's like, all right, like, you know, you're not going to lose out on money here. Like, make the games available, like, you can do your thing. So, I don't know. Right. They also made a change in Europe that music streaming services can have a buy button to sign up for the service. It takes you to a web page to learn more and sign up. What a novel concept.
What?
Apple is
Imagine that. Imagine that.
Just in Europe, this one, though, because we all know that non-Europeans cannot deal with buy buttons in their applications.
Yep. We are too stupid, Myke. We cannot handle it. I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that I am not lost on when I'm using the Spotify app. It's just... I don't want to go off. I don't want to pop off like I've been doing so often on ATP about how ridiculous and entitled Apple is. And so I will just say that I am glad that there's at least some amount of forward progress, even if it seems to be by way of the prod rather than, you know, the cattle prod rather than the carrot, if you will. I think I'm mixing metaphors here. But it turns out, like I said a minute ago, it looks like this is working. Like the system is working. They are forcing Apple to make changes that they wouldn't or didn't appear to be willing to make otherwise. And you know what? I am here for it.
Yep. It's time for a rumor roundup.
Yeehaw.
9to5Mac has found evidence in iPadOS 17.5 in the beta that the next Apple Pencil may feature a squeeze gesture. This is a quote from 9to5Mac. The gesture can be used for quick interactions such as adding shapes, signatures, stickers, or a text field. Presumably, the gesture will be triggered by pressing the Apple Pencil surface.
That's very interesting. I don't know how I would feel about a squeeze gesture. And I'm sure once I tried it, I'd be like, oh, yes, of course. But sitting here
you have
now,
AirPods Pro, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's that.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's a fair point.
Yeah.
But I just use that for play. I mean, what would I don't know.
Well,
I mean, you just read, but
you're not drawing with your AirPods. But you
exactly.
know, you could imagine there'd be an application and you'd set it and it's like some frequent thing that you're doing inside of said application. Like it could be undo in Procreate or change into your, between two tools or something like that. I would prefer a button than squeezing, but we'll see. And we may be seeing soon because not as soon as we thought though. Mark Gurman is reporting now that the new iPads are due to be announced on May 6th, which is a month away from now, which is kind of funny because we've been expecting these new iPads for at least a month.
I think you mean at least a year.
Well, I mean, we've wanted them for that amount of time.
Sure.
But yeah, it's just like a funny scenario that we've ended up in where we were all convinced that these iPads were coming out in early March, and they're actually now looking like they will arrive in early May.
Yeah, and I thought I'd read somewhere, I don't know if we'll be able to put a link in the show notes or not, but I feel like I read somewhere that they were having really bad yield problems with the OLED displays or something along those lines, since that might have something to do with it.
Mark has also
Apple
said that there are software issues, so it's kind of, was it 6 of one, half dozen of the other with this stuff. But yes, this is coming out later than expected. But as people say, Casey, it's not delayed if they haven't announced it.
That's true. That is true.
Mark Gurman is also reporting that Apple is now exploring home robotics now that the car project is over. In the search for the next big thing, this is what they're going to start pursuing. I'm going to read some quotes. This piece is just like full of interesting quotes, so I'm just going to read them out. We can talk about it. Engineers at Apple have been exploring a mobile robot that can follow users around their homes. The original concept for the robot was a device that could navigate entirely on its own without human intervention and serve as a video conferencing tool. One pie-in-the-sky idea was having it to be able to handle chores like cleaning dishes in a sink. But that would require overcoming extraordinarily difficult engineering challenges, something that's unlikely this decade. Apple has developed an advanced tabletop home device that uses robotics to move a display around. This idea was to have the display mimic the head movements of a call, such as nodding of a person on a FaceTime session. It would also have features to precisely lock onto a single person among a crowd during a video call. The robotics work is happening within Apple's hardware engineering division and its AI and machine learning group run by John Giannandrea. Matt Costello and Brian Lynch, two executives focused on home products, have overseen the hardware development.
This is interesting. On the surface, it makes sense, kind of, because, in this world with the car, you need to have incredible spatial awareness, and in a house, you would also need some good spatial awareness, but it is a pretty big leap from one to the other. I'm
not sure they're really related, in the sense of, like, they were working on a car, now they've given up on that, and now they're working on something else.
Fair. And the other thing is, like, what would I want a house robot to do by following me around? Like, the only thing I can think of is, remember, and I think you used one of these at Ool once. I thought it was you that was there. But
we had a call using one.
That's what I'm talking about. I forget the
telepresence robot.
There you go. That's the generics, the generic term. But yeah, it's these robots that you can wander around a office building or what have you, and they basically have like an iPad or equivalent at about eye level actually, and so you could sort of kind of carry on a conversation with a coworker, even though the coworker is hundreds of miles away or whatever. And that was neat. And I saw a handful of offices try it, and it seemed like none of them stuck with it. And I don't know if that's because the thing was never charged, or because it was too difficult to use, or latency was too bad, or whatever. But I can't think of any reason why I would want a robot following me around the house. It's not like that. And I've just talked about this in ATP and I forget the name of it, but there's those robots that will follow you around in a city, and they're like a backpack, but you don't have to carry it. It's just this little like Segway style thing that's following a meter or two behind you. And that in principle actually sounds pretty appealing, but that's when you're out of the house, and it's also like $7,000 or something like that.
So look, think about what they're saying would be the pie in the sky. Wouldn't you love something to do house chores for you?
I mean, I suppose.
Imagine a Roomba, but that can do everything.
Right.
But it's too big. This is too big of a thing to even consider, which I think they're getting at, right?
Exactly.
Like, this is and I think people can take some of these reports as being like a gospel thing, but no, like, there was an idea that somebody had of like, the real goal for a project like this is create a multi-purpose home robot. But they know they're not going to be able to do that for a very long time, if ever.
Yeah.
But inside of this piece is the real thing that they seem to be working on, I hope that they're working on, which is a tabletop home device that can move a display around. Like, this is the advanced Echo Show-like device from Apple, the HomePod with a screen, which apparently this product is, quote, much further along, but there is disagreement inside of the company over whether it's something people would want. Something I would want we have an Echo Show in the house, and I don't like it, but my wife does. But it's nice to have a screen in the house where it's showing photos from a photo library, but we can also talk to it. You can, when you're cooking, you can see the timers on it. You can interact with like, Amazon's made a great business of this. I would love Apple to do one of these, and if it could do things like I could have a FaceTime call with someone and it will follow me around and all that kind of stuff, it sounds fantastic. But I also would love Apple to build me a robot that could do all of my chores. But I genuinely, I'm not sure if we'll see that in my lifetime.
Yeah, agreed. And with regard to the Echo Show style thing, that's not something I feel like I want in my life. But let me hedge by saying I've never had an Echo Show or anything equivalent. So it may be one of those things that once I had it in my life, I'd go, oh, yes, of course. But, the closest I can think of is having a larger screen for FaceTime purposes. And just recently, we FaceTimed with my mom and dad when they were at their house, and we were at ours, of course. And I just stuck my phone on the mantle below the TV, and it was fine. Like, it really wasn't bad. The audio allegedly on their end wasn't bad, because that's the thing I worry about. Our family room is very, very wide and not very deep, so we're physically relatively close to the TV, which helps a lot for the purposes of audio. But when you do a FaceTime call with an Apple TV, the audio is the camera microphone on your phone, right? And so sometimes in a room that's deeper and not as wide, you can sound like you're 400 miles away from the microphone, because you kind of are. Luckily, our house is laid out in such a way that that's not really a problem. But that sort of thing is where I feel like we're missing something in our, the Liss family's missing something, is having the ability to do a group FaceTime call on a big screen. And what with continuity camera and the Apple TV support and more recent versions of the Apple TV OS, then that seems to be fixed for us. So I don't personally have a need for this, but again, I can't stress enough that it might be one of those things that I get it in the house and I'm like, oh yes, of course, how did I live without this?
This episode is brought to you by AdBlock Pro. AdBlock Pro gives you a smoother Safari experience. Those infuriating autoplay videos, deceptive close buttons, relentless scrolling banners, and sketchy redirects, you can wave goodbye to all of this and welcome a decluttered and more delightful browsing experience. Are you constantly bombarded with allow cookie pop-ups? You can effortlessly dismiss them with AdBlock Pro. It just gets rid of them for you. You can mute comment sections on websites that you don't want to see. You can selectively block page elements with a simple tap. And unlike some other services, AdBlock Pro is coming, and it's there. Vision Pro natively, day one. So you can get it right there. So you don't have to have all of that stuff beamed into your eyeballs. Not only that, AdBlock Pro has earned itself a spotlight by Apple on the App Store, not once, not twice, but 3 times in the Safari extensions category. So make Safari snappier with AdBlock Pro and dive into a web realm that's 2 to 3 times faster, slashing your data usage by up to 60% and extending your battery life. It doesn't cost you the earth. You can experience basic ad blocking absolutely free, or for just the cost of 2 coffees a year, you can unearth premium features that will transform your browsing journey across your iPhone, iPad, Mac, and visionOS and your Vision Pro too. And with family sharing, one subscription covers up to 6 accounts with lifetime options available too. I really value these things. For me, I don't care so much about blocking ads. You know, obviously in my life, advertising isn't a way I make my living. I care more about bad user experiences. Similarly, for how we don't have bad ads on our shows, we don't have. I don't like bad experiences on the web. So things like the cookie banners, them just being disabled for me, or like I can also set my preferences for how I want that stuff to be dealt with, as well as stuff that's trying to like take over the scrolling on my page. Get rid of all of that stuff. Take action, jump onto the App Store, search AdBlock Pro, and transform your Safari experience today. That's AdBlock Pro in the App Store. Thanks to AdBlock Pro for their support of this show and Relay FM. So a couple of days ago, I incessantly bullied you into getting onto a FaceTime call with me.
That is both accurate and inaccurate, but it is probably more accurate than I care to admit to myself.
Yes, because Spatial Personas have launched. So this is an advanced persona feature for FaceTime calls with the Vision Pro. So previously, you would have a call with somebody and they would be trapped inside of a little box. But at WWDC, when they showed off the Vision Pro initially, they gave a tease for the next evolution of personas, where people would be essentially like floating heads and hands inside of your space with you. But Apple touted at the time that it was a much more immersive experience. Now, you were going to be my co-host on the show today. I wanted to talk about it, and I wanted you to come onto the show having had this experience, and I wanted you to have this experience with me. And so by this point, I had a call with a couple of friends solo, and then also a group hangout session. This was your first experience of Spatial Personas. What did you think?
So the thing with the Vision Pro is that there's so much potential there, and it's so obvious that the technology is just phenomenal. It's big, it's clunky, it's heavy, but it's there. It's there much more so than you would expect. But it's hard to convince yourself of that sometimes, even as someone who can spend as much time as I want with the Vision Pro, because there's so few examples of it being there. And the immersive video we were talking about earlier is a great example. This Gucci thing, as silly as it may sound, I think that's an example. And I've done a FaceTime call or two with the Vision Pro previously, and it was fine. And after, 5 or 10 minutes, you can kind of get over the fact that you're looking at a cartoon version of your friend or whatever, but it was fine. The Spatial Personas are a whole different thing. And it is a great example of what makes the Vision Pro so freaking cool and what makes you feel like, yep, we're there. This is it. It's not the future. It's not the future in the future. It's the future today. And it was bananas. It's incredible. I did this in my office in the same room I'm sitting in right now. I did this without any AirPods in or anything like that. I was just using the audio pods, whatever they call the thing, the stems on the Vision Pro. And the way that it felt like you were around me was phenomenal, because if you were off to my left, you sounded like and looked like you were off to my left. If you're off to my right, you sounded like and looked like you were off to my right. And what really blew my mind, which is funny because I think at this point I had heard Connected, if I'm not mistaken. And so I was aware of most of these things. And so I knew what to expect. And yet, we were sitting, or I guess we were adjacent to each other. I forget exactly what the scenario was. But one way or another, I was looking at you, even if I don't remember if I was looking at you head on or if you were off to my side. But one way or another, you said, okay, I'm going to stand up now. And sure enough, when you stood up, your head went from eye level to a couple of feet above me. Yeah. Which is what would happen if we were sitting next to each other.
Yeah, and it creates a shared physical space, so I can walk around you.
Yeah.
I'm in your space, and I'm moving around. So, and there are things that you can do which are wild. Like, you can have somebody follow your finger with their eyes, and you can watch them do that. Like, The latency and the realness of this it's honestly like a technological marvel. Here's the thing. If you've seen pictures of this, and I'll put links in the show notes to Jason's article about this and Steven's article about this, which has a bunch of pictures of these calls that I was on too, they look ridiculous, right? It is a floating head and floating hands. It looks ridiculous. But it doesn't feel like that when you're in it. There is something about just the head and the hands and the shoulders, but when they're moving and they're talking and you can see someone emoting, it is just the amount that you need for your brain to be tricked that you're in the room with the person. It's like just enough. And you know, you've heard of these kinds of things before, of like the bare minimum that your brain needs to be able to make these kinds of jumps, like these leaps. This 100% does it. It's the most immersive VR call I've ever experienced, and I've tried a bunch of these things because not only does it work really well, I'm looking at the person I'm talking to and it looks like them, a lot like them, because the new personas got even better. Like, truly, it looks weird. Trust me, I know it looks weird, but if you experience it, it is like it's unbelievably good. Like, it's unbelievably good. And it pulls in so many different technologies. Spatial audio is key, as Casey was talking about. If I stand up, I'm higher. He can hear I'm above him. If I move around him, he can experience that. Share play. You can share windows, content, all this kind of stuff together. Like, I did this with you. We shared a freeform board. I could get up and walk towards the board and point to things on the board like a presentation. Obviously, you could do Keynote and stuff in this. And then there are also, like, I think the best way to experience this.
Well, actually, before you jump to that, though, hold on. The freeform thing blew my mind because, again, I had heard Connected. I knew what to expect, but yet you shared a freeform board, potentially even the same one you shared with them, and we went from looking at each other, sitting, one facing the other, to now we are adjacent to each other, one on either side of the board, which is what you would expect to happen if you were in a space with a whiteboard, right? And you can, like you just said, you can point to something, and I can point to something, and we can tell what the other's doing. Like, I know Myke just said that, but I really need to hammer that home because you would expect there to be like inaccuracies or horrible latency or something, but no. It was spot on. I forget exactly what was on the board, but I said something like, okay, point to the red rectangle. And sure enough, you pointed to it. And, and I said, okay, what am I pointing at? And you said, oh, you're pointing to the same red rectangle, the other side of it. And yep, yes, I am. Like, it's so silly to be so impressed by this. If you think about it, like, and if you look at these pictures, like Myke had been saying, it's like, okay, this looks super weird. Why are you so excited? No, I can't even begin to describe. It is just stupefying the difference that all of this makes, especially in aggregate. Like, it's clear that Myke wasn't physically standing next to me. Like, that's obviously not the case, but it tickled all of the same kinds of emotions. You know what I mean? Like, it felt effectively like you were. And it was almost as satisfying as us having a brainstorming session. I mean, even though it was all, contrived, but it was almost as satisfying as us having a brainstorming session in a room together. And given that you're 2,000 miles away from me, this is a lot easier and cheaper to do than meeting up somewhere to do it in person.
Like, last week, I felt like I was able to hang out with a bunch of my friends over these different calls. Like, it was a very enriching experience for me because it was able to tickle a lot of those sensations that you get for having spent time with people, because you're talking to them, you feel like you're in a place with them, you very quickly ignore the weird part of it and accept it for what it is, or think it's more than what it is. You're able to look into the eyes of your friends as they're talking to you, and like you're actually looking into their eyes and they're looking into your eyes. The amount of work that must have gone into this, I cannot fathom. Like, I genuinely think, like, if you have a friend that has a Vision Pro and you've been on the fence or whatever, this is a reason to buy one. If you want to have these experiences together. Because, so one of the things that we did was we played a game called Game Room, which I think is the perfect demo for this.
Oh, it's phenomenal. I cannot stress enough. You must try this.
They have a bunch of different games inside a Game Room. One of them is essentially Battleship. And the two of us were able to play a game of Battleship. It's a very well done application just in general. Like, the animations are fantastic. It's very well designed, fast and fun. But like, you're able to play actual games together. Like, I really, really hope that more games do this. It's all built on SharePlay, so it's just a SharePlay game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that more of this kind of stuff exists because I want to create like hangouts for friends. Like the group call that I did, it was basically just there was an active FaceTime call inside of a group chat, so people were able to drop in and drop out. Because that's how FaceTime group chats work.
That's
and
cool.
So there were at one point there was 3 of us, then there was 4 of us, then there was 5 of us, and like people were dropping in and dropping out. Like
Yep.
so you could imagine like just a friend hangout session, and you can hang out, you can chat, but having activities like shared activities to do and games being one of them, like man, this is what I was saying earlier on in the show. Like, it is way too soon to be like, oh, this platform's dead, it's not going anywhere, like there's no developers for it, Obviously, I was listening to ATP last week, and I would say the 3 of you to an element were like, talking about the death of the platform already. But it's not just you guys. Like, I'm hearing it all over the place. I'm seeing it on Mastodon. Like, it's too soon. I would love to know how we would deal with the iPhone now. Like,
that's interesting.
If the iPhone was now, what would we be saying? Like, we're in the first year of the iPhone and there's no apps for it, right? Like, what would the conversations be like? I just think that, like, if you see things like this spatial persona stuff, to say that they are not putting effort into this platform, like, I can't even imagine how hard this was to build. Like, this is clearly what they wanted it to launch with, right? But couldn't get it ready in time. Because there's no reason that you would do the first version of this, right? Like, if you had the second version ready. Like, it was very clear now that this first version is just they did it until they could
stopgap
to finish. Yeah, a stopgap. And, like, it's truly mind-blowing. I hate to use this word, but it's true. It's a transformative experience of using technology like this. Because, I'm hearing time and time and time again from you and from everybody else, like, the Vision Pro is a antisocial product, right? Like, you can't use it with people around you, And I'm not saying that this changes that, but it makes it social in a different way.
I was just about to say it's differently social, and you're exactly
social.
right.
In the same way that, your iPhone and your iPad is an antisocial device too. But we say it's a social device because you can talk to your friends who are across the ocean, right? So, like, it's additive to my life because I'm connected to people. This is an even stronger connection.
Yeah.
So it's just, like I was listening to ATP this morning, so it's fresh in my mind. And you were talking about the fact of how, like, you wouldn't sit on the couch next to Erin. You would wear one of these and she's watching Avatar on the TV and you're watching it in your headset.
Right.
You also wouldn't watch Avatar on your phone while she's watching it on the TV.
That's
right?
fair.
Like,
that is fair. Yeah.
People are, I think, a lot of the time, like, creating these scenarios that sound ridiculous because they are ridiculous. Like, you wouldn't do that. You also wouldn't have 4 people wearing one in the same way that, like, you wouldn't have 4 people all looking at an iPad. Like, these devices will fit into our lives in different ways. For some people, they won't fit into their lives at all, and that's totally fine, right? Like, there's going to be a balance here for what this kind of technology can provide and what it can't. But this is like, here's a thing you can't do. The only way you can do this is a Vision Pro. You cannot have this experience with any other Apple product because a FaceTime, that ain't it, son. Like, this is so much better than a FaceTime call. So much better than a FaceTime call for so many reasons. As long as your mouth moves, of course. Mine does.
Well, that was very off-putting because they still haven't quite fixed your mouth
They'll
movements.
get there, I'm sure. If they can work this out, they can get the mouth movement issue with mustaches fixed. But
actually, honestly, the only obvious answer is you just need to trim your beard and mustache back a lot. That's the one true way.
I'm not doing that for like, you know what I mean? Of like, if that's their answer, then I'll say the platform is dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's your criticisms of ATP, I think, are fair, and it's funny what a difference just a few days makes because I to a degree, I stand by what I was saying on ATP, and I would think of the 3 of us, I was far and away the most positive, but I was still kind of poo-pooing the whole thing. And it's funny because at the time, I was thinking, all right, well, they haven't come up. Apple hasn't come out with any of the new immersive videos yet. I didn't realize that the dinosaur thing was forthcoming.
But still, it's one episode. It's not that's still not good enough. Like not even.
Yeah,
close.
exactly. And the soccer thing, as has been talked about ad nauseum, was not great by any means. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, what's the point? Like, I still like it, but I think I said on the show, were it not for professional obligations, I think I wouldn't have bought it, and I don't think I would have missed it. Well, fast forward, what is this, like 5 days later, 6 days later, and I've experienced spatial personas in FaceTime. I've experienced collaborating, not necessarily in a professional sense, but even like in a gaming sense, collaborating on something. I've experienced this Gucci app, which, as silly as it is, really is mind-blowing. Like, it's such a clever way of approaching this not problem, but this task of presenting a documentary in an interesting way. Like in the past less than a week, I feel like the stock of the Vision Pro has gone quite a bit up in my mind because I'm starting to see new and interesting ways to use it. And this comes back to what you've been saying this entire episode. Well, more than this episode, but especially this episode. It is too darn soon to throw this thing out. It is too darn soon to say it's a dead platform walking, because it isn't. We haven't had the time for people to really start flexing their muscles and being creative and seeing what they can do. And we're getting bits and pieces of it here. And like, I am looking forward to having the time to put on the Vision Pro and doing the, what is the name of the app? Game Room, the Game Room app, which I don't know if you said this out loud, but it's in Apple Arcade. So if you're an Apple One or whatever it's called member, you get this quote unquote for free. I can't wait to try it again. And I recorded a little bit of video of the two of us playing, and I showed the family, and everyone was looking at this, and even though they don't really know what, like, they've had the Vision Pro on, but they didn't experience playing the game, and all of them were still like, oh, that's real cool, like. And of course Declan, my 9-year-old, was like, oh, I want to try that as soon as I can. And he hasn't had the chance yet, but it's so immediately captivating. And another thing, I don't think you mentioned this yet, but another thing you did, and I didn't even realize you could do this, is you can share your perspective.
Oh yeah.
And so I had seen many photos of Mega Office, but I have never been to Mega Office. I've never been. Sorry, thank you. My apologies. Mega Studio, and so I'd never been there, and that's why I didn't know the right name of it. But anyway, Myke said to me, it's at some point, all right, hold on a minute, watch this, and now I'm getting a 3D view of Mega Studio, which was amazing. And I mean, again, I've seen photos, so I kind of had a layout in my mind of what it looked like, but in the span of like you doing one 360-degree spin, well, now I know exactly what Mega Studio looks like. You know what I mean? And similarly, like, I mean, my office is a disaster, despite what hopefully it looks like on the video. But, I took you on a quick spin around my office, which is not exciting at all. But nevertheless, at least now you get to have a mental model for where it is I'm sitting right now talking to you. And like stuff like that is super cool. And if memory serves, that was in 3D. Like, it was immersive. Well, it wasn't immersive.
I don't think it was in 3D. No, it's just like
is
a
it
video.
Not? Okay.
You just get to see kind of like a video feed.
I was so bowled over by it, it may as well have been 3D. You're probably right. It probably wasn't, but it felt like it at the time. Yeah. And so it's incredibly cool what they've done with just FaceTime broadly, because this, seeing what Myke's seeing doesn't really have anything to do with spatial personas. That's just, I guess, share play, if nothing else. But my goodness, was it cool. And it enables you to kind of have a presence somewhere else. And, 3D or 2D, one way or another, it was so immersive in the figurative sense, because I couldn't, change where I was looking or anything, because I'm just getting the view from Myke's, headset. But it still felt so, lowercase I immersive, if you will, that it felt like I was there, and it was unreal. Like this is phenomenal. And if you're in a position, like, let's say you were, have a long distance relationship or something like that.
Oh my God!
Fathom how amazing this would be.
Yeah, are you kidding?
Right? Like, it would be this alone, just FaceTime and spatial personas alone. If you have the money, 1,000% worth the $7,000, for each of you to get one. Get the crappiest Vision Pro you can, which is still extremely expensive.
Here's the thing. None of this is achievable right now. But this is, like, what we're talking about, if you're in a long-distance relationship, do you have $7,000 to spend? Like, that is ridiculous to say.
Yeah.
But in 4 years' time, in 5 years' time, where I genuinely think that in 5 years' time, we will have like full bodies because they'll be able to just work out even if they can't scan it. So you would have a full body in it, or like much more of a body, maybe at least the top half, right? Because they can just work it out. I mean, this is kind of what Meta does, right? They're looking at where your hands are and then assuming the way that the rest of your body moves. It's all machine learning models at the end of the day. But like, if this thing is $1,500, then you could each have one. I mean,
yeah,
then we're off to the races because it's the beginning now. This product has been available for 3 months.
Mm-hmm. And look at the progress we've made in 3 months.
Yeah.
No, it's unreal. The thing that bothers me about all this, the thing that I'm so frustrated by with regard to all this, is that I don't have the vocabulary or the way with words to appropriately verbalize what this feels like. And I think you and I have done as best a job as we possibly can, but it's one of those, you really just do need to experience it. And like I said, I cannot stress enough. I know I've said it like 2 or 3 times, but I heard connected. I saw the photos in these blog posts. I knew what to expect, and still my mind was blown when Myke and I got on this FaceTime call together. It's unbelievable. And it's, again, one of those things where the sum is greater than the whole, or the thing is greater than
no, the parts are great. The sum is greater than the parts. The sum of the parts is greater than the whole. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know
I
got
us
saying.
all.
Little bit's good, better, big bit. You know, that's what they say.
But you know what I mean? Like the spatial persona was super cool. The freeform thing, super cool. The game room thing, super cool.
Yep.
But all together, like all of this was mind blowing. I
put it together. What have you got? Bibbity bobbity boo. You know what
Exactly.
I'm saying? You
Well
know what
done.
I'm saying when I quote Mary Poppins. Are you kidding?
I do. Yeah, that's not Mary Poppins, is it? That's Cinderella, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
When I quote Mary Poppins quoting Cinderella as she does in the movie, and everyone remembers it.
Exactly right. No, but truly,
that's like the Michael Scott thing, right? Like, when is it? It's like the Wayne Gretzky coat and then Michael Scott underneath. That's me right
I know what you're thinking of. Yeah. No, it's really incredible. If you're lucky enough to have a Vision Pro, you must find someone to do this with you. You and I should like do cameo style things where we'll schedule 10 minutes doing this with people who don't have any other Vision Pro friends. Well, we can make a whole bunch of money.
That sounds like a September fundraising activity if I've ever heard one.
I could be convinced. I'm just saying. I could be convinced. All right. Stop me before this gets even worse. What is something else we could talk about?
This episode is brought to you by Fitbod. When you want to change your fitness level, it can be hard to know how to get started, which is why I'm pleased to let you know that Fitbod is an easy and affordable way to build a fitness plan made just for you. Everybody has their own path with fitness, and that is why Fitbod uses data to make sure they customize things to suit you exactly, adapting as you improve, so every workout is challenging, pushing you to make the progress that you want, but keeping it exciting too. Because Fitbod is remembering what you're doing and they're tailoring it to suit you, you're not going to get bored. The app is going to mix up your workouts with new exercises, rep schemes, supersets, and circuits. But it also makes sure that you have a well-balanced workout routine because it manages muscle fatigue and recovery to look at this holistically for you. You're going to see superior results when a workout program is tailored to you, your experience, your body, your environment, your goals. This is all stored in your Fitbod gym profile. Fitbod tracks your recovery, so you're going to avoid burnout and keep up your momentum. And they build the best possible workout for you by combining AI with exercise science. You're going to be sure that you're learning movements the right way too, because they have over 1,000 demonstration videos inside of their app, which I love. So if I've got a new exercise, I can read how to do it and watch videos and feel confident, which is super important to me when it comes to working out. The Fitbod app is really easy to use. They have progress tracking charts, and you can keep track of your achievements and share these with your friends and family. It also integrates with your smartwatch, whether it's a Wear OS smartwatch or, of course, an Apple Watch, and integrates with apps like Strava, Fitbit, and Apple Health. Personalized training of this quality can be expensive, but Fitbod is just $12.99 a month or $79.99 a year. But you can get 25% off your membership by signing up today at fitbod.me/upgrade. So go now and get your customized fitness plan at fitbod.me/upgrade. That is fitbod.me/upgrade for 25% off your membership. Our thanks to Fitbod for their support of this show and Relay FM. So last time you were on the show, which was episode 448, which was back in February of 2023, so it's been about a year and a bit, I created a new segment called the Casey Liss Vibe Check, and I would like to reinstate the segment today. So this may become a thing that you just do every time you're on the show with me.
Okay,
because
sounds
Jason
good.
is clearly now willing to take weeks off, which it only took us 9 years before he was willing to do it.
and a celestial event in this case.
Yeah, well, last time he went to New Zealand, and I was like, this is untenable. Just take some time off. So what we're going to do is I have 10 words or phrases.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what they are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say these to you. You give me the first word or small phrase that comes into your head, and then we may go back and dig into some of these that are particularly interesting to me. So I have my list here, and I want you to tell me what you think. All right?
Okay.
Are you
All right.
ready?
Now, I did not go back and listen to the last one because it occurred to me you might repeat some, and I don't want to like incept
I
myself.
appreciate that, actually.
And so I was planning to go back and listen just to remind myself how this went, and I remember it being a little dodgy on my part. So I wanted to re-listen, but then I decided, no, we're just going to roll with it. And we're going to see what happens because I don't want to taint my opinions here. So I have no idea.
I do have
what's
a
coming.
couple of repeat vibes to check.
Mm-hmm. All right.
First one, AI.
Everywhere.
Oh, okay. DOJ.
Failing.
Wow, okay, that's not what I thought. DMA.
A lot. It's a lot.
Alternative app marketplaces.
Non-starter.
Ooh, that's interesting. OLED iPad Pro.
Neat.
M3 Ultra.
I am excited and also desperately do not want it to happen.
WWDC 24.
I think that's my answer. Just
Okay,
that big
that's
sigh.
perfect. That's all I need for now. visionOS.
I want to see what's coming.
Apple TV Plus.
Impressive, actually.
And Mac Pro.
Oh, please no.
All right. Obviously, the Mac Pro, we all know. Your co-hosts, especially John, will talk about it forever.
Yep.
Again, it's always funny to me It's always funny to me first to remember that he's still using that Mac Pro.
I know.
And then for what's it gonna take? Like that's always like a funny thing for me to think about. So digging into a couple of these. So AI is actually the one that I was most interested in to see where you're at. Do you use any AI tools?
It's one of those things where it's not. How can I phrase this? I need AI to figure out how I need to verbalize this. So I don't ever immediately jump to AI. It's like, oh, I'm having something I need done. Well, AI will fix it. I'm not at that point by any means. Oftentimes, though, especially when it comes to code-related things, I'll flail around for how to do something and realize I just can't figure this out quickly. And I've gotten better over the last year or so since ChatGPT has really hit. I've gotten better at thinking to myself, oh, you know what? I wonder if I could ask ChatGPT this. And I bet I will either get a good answer or an answer that will, push me in the right direction. And I've gotten better and better at that. But it's still not the sort of thing where I have to get there by desperation, if that makes sense. Like, I would not choose to start there, but I oftentimes will end there because, to ChatGPT's credit, oftentimes it does get me across the finish line one way or another, either by way of inspiration or by an actual solution. So
you're
I am using it
actual
some.
ChatGPT for the code questions. You're not using something specific to code.
Correct. That's correct.
Have you ever tried the GitHub stuff or Microsoft?
No,
stuff?
I know of what you speak, but I haven't tried any of it. No.
So you would just go to ChatGPT, I assume the free version?
That's right. And describe my issue and say, how do you fix it?
And do you find it gives you good answers?
On some occasions, it will give me literally the answer. There was an instance where I wanted to create an enumeration, which is basically like, you have a bunch of different options in code and you will only ever be one of them. And so I wanted to create an enumeration based off of some other piece of data. So I had a list of like 20 or 30 things, and I wanted a code enumeration based off of those 20 different things. And I could do this by hand. It's not conceptually difficult to do. It's just a pain, right? It's a bunch of rote work. And so I said to ChatGPT, hey, I have this, I think it was a JSON object. I have this JSON object and I would like an enumeration based on this. Can you do that for me? And I think I had to phrase it differently 1 or 2 or 3 times, but then once I got it phrased appropriately, was good to go. And so I saved myself a whole bunch of time, not just, mashing on the keyboard, doing the same thing over and over again by spending 2 minutes in ChatGPT. And so that's a great example of it. On occasion, if I have a weird FFmpeg incantation where I'm trying to convert a video from one format to another, I'll turn to ChatGPT to do it. So yeah, it's definitely given me reasonable answers, occasionally, completely on its own without me having to triple check or anything like that.
Okay. I have two main uses at the moment. One is to help me rewrite stuff. And I use a combo depending on the tool that I'm in. If I'm in Notion, I use Notion's AI to do it. If I'm doing something that I'm just going to put into a random text box, sometimes I'll just use ChatGPT. But the thing I'm most excited about right now is a service called Perplexity. And
I've not heard of this.
It's a service where they combine a bunch of different models together and have their own stuff that is sprinkled on top. I'm using it in replacement of trying to do 50 Google searches to get an answer for something. So that's what it's really good at. So we're going to Disneyland Paris later on this year. And we're trying to find some restaurants to book. Now, as a Disneyland fan, a Disney World fan, sorry.
Thank you.
You know the issue of trying to search for anything Disney related. It is just SEO garbage website after SEO garbage website, right? And what I like about these tools is they will just read every website and find the things that correlate between them to give you the answers you're looking for. Like for searches like this, it's so good at wrangling in the SEO destroyed web. Of course, the problem is these tools will also create more of this garbage content, but I'm trying to live in that perfect moment where I can get the answers that I want without, stuff happening. Also with comics, it's a similar thing. I'm trying to pick up some, I've basically read all of the Spider-Man comics I could possibly read or would want to read, and so I want to turn my attention to some different titles. I want to maybe read some Daredevil comics or some X-Men comics. And I ask it, give me some suggestions. And I with these tools, to try and get the most out of them, I'll always give their pro versions a try, at least for a month. And with Perplexity's pro version, it asks you questions about your question. So, they understand the question. It's do you want good stories for an origin story? Do you want good stories that are short? Do you want good stories that are a long period of time that have some classic moments in? And then I can just tap which ones I want. Then it goes out, creates a list for me. Then you can also collect up your answers into these little collections. I'm pretty high on this service right now because I just like it. It kind of sounds like I'm doing an ad for them. I actually think I would like them to sponsor the show now. So Perplexity, if you're out there, just send me an email. But yeah, it's a service that I really like, so I was just intrigued. Why do you think alternative app marketplaces are a non-starter?
It's too much work and nobody's going to... not literally nobody, of course. There are people who will care, but
I don't think it's as much work as you think it is.
I think it's a lot of work for the developers.
Yes,
but that's not what I was referring to. That is not what I was referring to, for the record.
Yes,
I was referring to what you think.
You just go to a website, tap a button, tap install.
But then I thought, if I recall correctly, the Verge said you needed to go to the website, and then you needed to effectively introduce your phone to the fact that this marketplace exists. Then you need to go into settings and say to your phone, yes, I'm aware it exists. Yes, I would like to use it. Then you got to go back to the website, and then you got to install the app marketplace and all this jazz. And it's not an obscene amount of work, but I think it's enough that until we get something that is truly...
Right. What I'm thinking of is how easy it is to install apps from the app marketplaces. But yes, to actually install the marketplace itself, you have to jump through a bunch of hoops, which I would be surprised if all those hoops will still exist in a year from now.
That's also very, very fair. That is a very good point. But sitting here today, as what we know now, I just don't think your average person is going to jump through these hoops. And there needs to be some justification for it. As an example, when the iPhone first came out, I remember there was an app, and I can't remember the name of the app. It was iTether or something like that. I forget exactly what it was. But basically what it allowed you to do was tether to your phone And I forget
Yeah.
if it was like a SOX proxy or something like that, or if it just enabled something in iOS or at that point iPhone OS. But one way or another, it was a way to let your phone tether, even if your carrier didn't give you permission to do so. And it required a jailbreak. And I remember I desperately wanted to be able to tether, and I don't remember the reason why. And I ended up only doing it a handful of times, but I jailbroke my phone in no small part. It was like this, and whatever it was where you could drag down from the top of the screen, and there were a bunch of widgets. Do you remember that? Do you know what I'm thinking of? There was like, like Wi-Fi on and off, and like volume and all that. And those two things were enough to make me jump through all the hoops of jailbreaking. Now, I'm not trying to say that jailbreaking is the same as an alternative app marketplace, but it's spiritually, it is. It absolutely is. But it's spiritually in the same direction. And so
I can see the argument that it is for a particular type of person, and that particular type of person is likely to jump through those hoops. The thing that I wonder about is like, is there a breakout app that can exist?
That we're saying the same thing. That's exactly it. Is that, it is Delta enough, and maybe Delta is maybe Fortnite that's all it'll take.
Enough? Or
Fortnite is actually that's a much better example. Is Fortnite enough? And if in that I could absolutely see. What we know today, where Fortnite isn't yet in an alternative app store. They've said it will be, but it hasn't yet. Knowing what we know today, I stand by it's a non-starter. But I 100% agree. There can and honestly likely will be some sort of app that pushes people over the edge to deal with jumping through all these hoops.
I feel like I know the obvious, but WWDC 24 makes you groan.
Mostly because I'm just sad that I'm missing out again, or at least sitting here now. That's the expectation.
You have yet to receive a developer pass.
Well, I have officially been denied a developer pass.
Have you been? They said no?
Yeah. They went out right before we recorded ATP.
Oh, so
Thursday.
I know they send an email if you get in. I didn't know if they sent an email to say you did not get in.
Yeah, I mean, I can dig it up if you give me a minute. But suffice to say, they're like, hey, we're sorry.
In the past, they have sent these out. Like, they've sent out some afterwards, but I don't know if they're like...
Yeah, and I think that is possible. And, it is plausible that I would get a press pass, but certainly, history indicates that is unlikely. There was 1 year, I want to say it was 22, maybe it was 21, but I think it was 22. There was 1 year I was offered a press pass, but it was before Michaela was, my youngest kid was vaccinated, and I didn't want to mess with traveling across the country and all that.
It was 22. So, it was when we all found out 2 days before or something. It wasn't that short, but it was we weren't even. It was because there was going to be a developer event, and then all of a sudden it got bigger, and a bunch of people were invited. Yeah,
and so I did get an invite then, which I declined when it absolutely murdered me to do so, but I stand by it. And so no other time ever since I'd been going to WWDC in 2011, which admittedly was before anyone knew who the heck I was, I've never been offered a press pass to it. I don't expect to this year, but I would love to be able to go at some point to see Apple Park, to see what it's like at Apple Park, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I mean, I've not been offered, and that was my initial gut reaction, is to be selfish, to be honest with you. But more broadly, if I'm allowed a second opinion on it, I am excited for it. Actually, I'm excited for all of this, AI stuff. There's enough smoke around here that there's got to be a fire. I'm excited to see what AI really means in Apple's context. I'm super excited to see what visionOS 2.0 looks like, because at this point we have a point. We need at least one more point to make a line. And I really want to see where this inevitable line is going to be reaching for. I'm trying not to use the word point again. So in what direction is this line going?
For WWDC, the potential of it this year, for these reasons of is visionOS 2 going to be exciting, or is it going to be disappointing? I hope it's going to be exciting.
Yep.
But obviously the star of the show this year, I thought the star of the show would be visionOS 2, but that was before AI reared its head, and Apple was talking about it and saying they have stuff coming. And, and we obviously have heard things now. We've seen reports. And so it's intriguing to wonder what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
And is it going to be like a whole new way of thinking about using our iPhones? Potentially, or at least will developers have brand new tools to create new experiences that they couldn't before? So I'm pretty excited for WWDC, but similar to you, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be attending this year. I've got some stuff going on in the summer, and I don't think I'm going to be able to make it work. So that will be a shame, but I'm excited about the announcements that could come.
Yeah, before we move on from WWDC, very briefly, I've been thinking, and this is not an original thought of mine. In fact, I think around the same time I had this epiphany, I want to say it was on Mac Stories that John or Federico was talking about it, but I really am getting the vibe, based on zero facts, just the vibe, that we're going to see some sort of visual refresh for iOS this year, and it's going to look very similar to visionOS. And I have no facts to back this up.
Maybe. I
just get this vibe that that's going to happen. And I'm very curious to see if we do get some sort of visual refresh on the iOS side.
How does that make you feel as an app developer?
As a developer, I am not looking forward to it.
Is it made easier by the fact that you use SwiftUI?
I think it is. And
because you'll get some stuff for free in theory?
In theory, especially since I generally stick pretty close to the way things look stock. I mean, obviously I tweak here and there, but I don't go too off the wall with it. I think what makes me dread it even less, though, is having gone through the visionOS native port, because it's not very hard at all to get an iPad app to work in visionOS. In fact, it's pretty darn straightforward. But to take an app that has an iPad version but make a native visionOS version, you can flip that switch reasonably easily and just comment out a bunch of stuff that isn't applicable in visionOS. As an example, like you can't change the icon right now of a visionOS app. And so you just got to comment all that out. But in order to make a visionOS app that feels good on the platform, which I like to think the call sheet does a pretty good job of, that's a fair bit of work. And it took me a long time to really understand what work needed to go where. Now that I've been through it, though, I feel better about it, and so I'm not nearly as miserable as I would be if I'd never done that effort. But as a developer, I'm kind of about it. But as a user, I like the look of visionOS. I think it looks good. I think it looks modern. I like that there's affordances for buttons, even if it takes you, looking at them first. But at least there's affordances. Yep. So I like it from a user perspective. I think it would be kind of nice. But from a developer perspective,
Why don't you want the M3 Ultra? Is that like for yourself or just to exist?
Because that means Mac Pro. In theory, it might mean
Studio.
Mac Pro.
It will also go on the Mac
true.
Studio.
No. It's that was, again, me being completely selfish about Mac Pro related discussions, because my co-hosts on ATP, especially John, as you mentioned, are obsessed with Mac Pro, are very disappointed in the current Mac Pro. And so the M3 Ultra, to me, I associate that almost exclusively with the Mac Pro, even though you are 100% correct, and it's really more about the Mac Studio, I would argue, than the Mac Pro.
Mac Studio,
but to me, it's a lot about the Mac Pro.
Like if they had something above Ultra, like maybe that, like because there was the rumors of the Extreme chip for a while, like that might be a Mac Pro only thing. But I would be really surprised if they made anything just for the Mac Pro, because like that thing is hanging on by a tether, like.
It really is. But, I mean, that being said, the M3 Ultra is interesting, and especially since it seems like all of the M3 generation chips, they appear to all be bespoke rather than kind of different cuts, both in a literal and a figurative sense, of other chips in the lineup. The M1 and the M2, it seemed like they had a building block and they just combined it or doubled it in different and interesting ways. Whereas what we've seen of the M3 dies is that they're more, bespoke, and each M3 is just tweaked a little bit to be that one and only one thing.
Honestly, I think the Apple Silicon story so far, especially when it comes to the Mac, we have been wrong in assuming that it was going to form a pattern.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
I mean, it did for the first 2 years, but then now we've gone way off the.
I don't know if it did. Like they were doing weird things, and like we're assuming a certain type of power gain, and it wasn't necessarily there. Like and again, like. One is not a pattern, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm intrigued about it because that's the computer I want next. Is an M3
yes.
Ultra Mac Studio,
which I'm sure will be incredible. And in that sense, I very much want this to happen. I would love to see what this looks like. And so, in that sense, unselfishly, so here for it. But selfishly, I really don't want to hear the boys whining about it for a while.
Yeah, I just I'm using an M1 MacBook Pro as the machine that I do my recording on and stuff. And really for me, with the reason I want to get the studio and I want it with an M3, I don't even think Ultra, like an M3 Pro would be fine for me.
Yeah.
I want inbuilt IO. And I want something that will last me 10 years.
Yeah, that's
in
fair.
Theory 10 years, right? Like it doesn't got to, but like I want a bit of headroom. Which is much more achievable for me now, considering what I'm doing on this machine. But yeah, I've really gotten, I think, the most out of this MacBook Pro, and I could keep running it for longer. But I really don't like having to use a dock for the important I/O, and there just aren't enough ports on this machine.
Yeah, it's funny, you know, I oftentimes will bring the computer to different parts of the house. I'm running an M3 Max MacBook Pro. I had an M1 Max MacBook Pro before. I probably shouldn't have upgraded, but I couldn't resist. And I'm glad I did, but I probably didn't need to. Nevertheless, it is not unusual, particularly when doing development work. So I have a phone plugged in. I might have an external display plugged in, or perhaps I have the Vision Pro plugged in. I can quickly run out of my 3 USB ports. That's not even counting power. You know, I've got MagSafe for power. I don't think the machine has too few ports, but I would not complain if it had a couple more.
Last one I wanted to touch on with you, unless there was any that you wanted specifically to give more context on, was Apple TV Plus. You said impressive.
Yeah, I didn't expect much of Apple TV Plus when it was originally announced, especially since, you know, early on, all we really knew of Apple's entertainment stuff was like behind the app or whatever it was, and that like in the carpool karaoke, and there were like a couple of things early on that were just not good. But then, you know, Ted Lasso drops, and what was that, 2020? And ever since then, I feel like I have had many different people, both in and out of nerd circles, recommend to me a smattering of different Apple TV Plus shows. And we have not watched all of them, and we're not caught up on a couple of them, but any that we've spent the time to try, I don't think there's been a one that we've been like, like we've loved, or maybe loved is strong, but we really liked The Morning Show. We haven't seen the most recent season. We've loved For All Mankind. Haven't seen the most recent season. Yeah, I mean, For All Mankind is really underrated. It's really good. In my opinion. Shrinking is phenomenal. Ted Lasso is phenomenal. Ted Lasso's great. What's the one that Ben Stiller directed? I'm drawing a blank.
Severance.
Thank you, Severance. I think those are the only
Slow Horses.
We haven't watched that one yet, and I've heard universally it's very good.
Slow Horses.
Well, I think we talked.
I know the kinds of books that you like, right? And like I know that we both like Jack Ryan. Like you like those kinds of like spy and that kind of stuff.
Yes, right? But I think we talked about this on Analog several months ago now. But I read the first Slow Horses book, and I thought it was fine.
Forget the book. Forget it.
I bet you I would enjoy the TV show quite a bit more. Gary Oldman, a lot less work,
is just incredible in the show.
And I love Gary Oldman in general, so that's not at all surprising.
The Steve Martin documentary.
Oh, yeah. How was that?
Really good. Really good. It's 3 hours. It's split into 2 parts. It's kind of like looking back at his career and then looking at where he is now, which is really great. And we just started watching Palm Royale.
I've heard of this, but I know nothing of it.
It's really nice. Like, it's not setting the world on fire, but I think it is a visual treat. And, like, it's quite an interesting story. We're about maybe a third or halfway through. I would recommend checking it out. Like, it's got a fantastic cast, at least. Ricky Martin's in it, which is...
Oh, wow. Oh, that's cool.
Rich is amazing. And God damn, does he look incredible. He spends a lot of time with his shirt off, and oh, boy, Ricky Martin.
He's like 55 years old, isn't he? I need call sheet, but whatever the case may be. No,
there's a lot of either makeup or like smoothing with CGI on some of these characters in this, but like nevertheless, he looks incredible.
That's very cool.
But yeah, that's really fun. But yeah, I agree. I mean, the thing that I worry about Apple TV Plus is the viewership is very low. It's very low. Yeah. It's starting to become a bit of a joke in Hollywood for that. Like, people want to keep bringing shows to them because Apple pays a lot and they pay up front, which is not normal. And they are allowing people to take swings and take risks. And, you know, as well, like, it seems that if you do a project with them, they will keep working with you on new projects. Like, it seems to be like they're building good relationships, but the viewership is very low.
I'm surprised. I totally believe you. I am not at all trying to argue with you, but I'm surprised that that's the case because, again, I've had so many people reach out and say, "Oh, Severance is so good," Casey, or "Oh, Shrinking is amazing."
World you're in. I mean, of course,
no, but this is regular. This is regular people too. It's not just nerds. I hear what you're saying, and you're not wrong. But
they have the occasional breakout, right? Like Ted Lasso. So basically, a lot of this stuff is the Nielsen ratings, right? And the Nielsen ratings are really low, but Ted Lasso, they made it into the top 10, but it's like the only time they've done that. So like they have the opportunity to do it, but the general, like, people are not watching content on their platform. And part of it might be is that they don't have a lot of content right? So maybe when it looks like how much time are people spending on any streaming platform, Apple's might be lowest because they don't have 10 seasons of The Office to watch, right?
Yeah.
But they are low. And, again, all we have is that data because no one will ever tell you anything, right? But they're having successes for sure. I just hope that they're willing to stick with it in the long term. There's no reason why they shouldn't be able to, though, because they have the money, right? But I find it a shame that more people don't watch a lot of their stuff, which is like genuinely, in the last 5 years, the majority of my favorite new TV shows are coming from Apple TV Plus.
Yeah, which is incredible. And so I like I said, it's impressive. I really do think it's impressive.
Thank you for allowing me to check your vibes.
Of course. My vibes may always be checked by you, Myke. I am here for you.
This episode is brought to you by Vitally. Customer success teams today, they're facing a new problem. How do they connect customer data back to their work? Vitally changes that. It is a new kind of customer success platform, an all-in-one collaborative workspace that combines your customer data with all the capabilities you expect from today's project management and work platforms. Because it's designed for today's customer success team, that's why Vitally operates with unparalleled efficiency, improves net revenue retention, and delivers best-in-class customer experiences. It's the solution to help your customer success team keep a better pulse on your customers, maximizing productivity, visibility, and collaboration with your team. You can boost your bottom line by driving more revenue per customer with Vitally. And if you take a qualified demo of Vitally, you'll get yourself a free pair of AirPods Pro. So if you're a customer success decision maker actively seeking CS solutions, working at a B2B software as a service company with 50 to 1,000 employees, and you're willing to explore changing customer success platforms if you have one in place, schedule your call by visiting vitally.io/upgrade and get that free pair of AirPods Pro. That is vitally.io, vitally.io/upgrade, and get yourself a free pair of AirPods Pro when you schedule a qualified meeting. Our thanks to Vitally for their support of this show and Relay FM. Let's finish out today with some Ask Upgrade questions.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with this segment? We have listeners write in with questions and then we answer them. We call it Ask Upgrade. Are you familiar with this, Casey?
I am. I dropped the ball on the lasers at first. My apologies. I completely forgot for a second there.
Good laser
I'm
work.
here for you now.
Good laser work.
That's right. Yeah.
Lucky writes in and says, how much storage did you both get in your Vision Pro, and how much are you using right now? Do you think the base model storage is enough to get by? Don't worry about the number. It's not important.
I was going to say, I'm not sure how much I'm using.
Because
I know
the
how much
answer
I got.
is, like, for me, I got the 512, right? The middle one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The amount that I'm using is just the amount that apps take up. I'm storing no content on this device. This was just a question at first of like, will I store anything? Will I have download anything on here? Like, I wasn't sure. And so like, that's kind of my answer. Right now, I would say you don't need to do any other tier. The reason I got the middle tier is I don't know what's coming, right? And that was kind of how I felt at the time. And 256 gigabytes wasn't a lot, really. And so I thought, well, let me get 512. Because let's say, for example, if I'm traveling and I download a bunch of movies, like, they're big files.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Versions. And so, and we don't know how long this device is around for, right? Like, if this hardware's around for 4 years, things might really change. And so,
that's very fair. Yeah, I got the 256. I wanted to get in and out as cheaply as I could, which still was not cheap.
I was like, in for a pound, in for another pound was my thinking,
It's fair. And I wish I had the chance to check, but I know that I got the 256, and to your point, the only real data I have on it is downloaded movies, and the only reason I did that was for train travel, actually leaving when I visited you in New York, and I'm planning to probably be using it on a plane later this month for reasons, and so I've downloaded some movies on there, but other than that, I have no data on there, and I feel like sitting here today, 256 is probably enough.
Billy asks, how many domain names do you own?
I did look earlier today to verify this, and I have 11. And
only 11. Okay, so Billy's
11.
question is, I hear Myke specifically mention very specific .coms for his shows. including Upgrade, and I'm curious. You have 11. Do you have any that are like interesting outliers? Like, do you have any domain names for things that are like interesting names that you just got them for, or do you only have them for like specific things?
No, I don't think I have any like goofy ones. Like I know on Bonanza, may it rest in peace, that was the the case study in goofy names for things. I have a domain for Michaela's name, which is parked effectively. I have a couple different variants of app related domain names. I just recently registered a domain name that I might use in the future to represent services that are running out of the house. So this may or may not ever be used publicly, but I wanted an actual domain name for it.
What do you
I'm
mean?
Not
what does that mean? Services.
So like I have some things, some like web-based things that are served on my Synology here at home. You can't have a podcast with me without talking about the Synology. And so they're based out of the house, and whether or not they're publicly accessible via the or publicly reachable via the internet, I might still want to have a domain name that will respond with a like locally with an IP address that's only available locally. And so I just the other day registered that. I do have Liss.family, which I believe just redirects to my website. Oh, and I have Declan's name as well. But by and large, it's nothing that interesting. I guess the most kind of clever thing that I have is accidental.tech, which I thought was kind of fun, which I believe just redirects to atp.fm. But yeah, there's nothing that exciting here, and there's 11.
I have across 2 Hover accounts. I have 86 domain names.
Holy jamolies!
Yeah, it's a bit of a problem. I turn a bunch of them off every now and then so they don't renew. But I have like a large variety of domain names, which are some of them they needed, some of them I have them but they're not needed. Some of them are like things I might use in the future. And some of them are just fun things that I like to have. So like a bunch of them are jokes, like 123membership.com. which I think goes to Connected's membership. I have fileofeedback.com. I don't know where that goes. I think it is to our feedback. I think it might be going to the feedback form for Upgrade, but these are jokes I make. Like there was one time where I made a joke about you can spell getmoretext.com however you want.
Oh, I remember this. That was a mistake.
That is 11 of my domain names. Is that?
Oh my.
Especially because it was made into an animation, so they're now on YouTube forever. I have a couple of interesting ones. I have paidcasts.com.
Interesting. Okay.
Like podcast, but the word paid. That was just like an idea that I had. Sometimes I have like words or phrases that pop up, and I'm like, is that available? And it is, and I'm like, I'll take that. And so I have a few of those. What else? I'm looking if I have anything else in here that's interesting. Hacketnumber.com.
What was that? I remember that being a thing. What was that about?
It's I don't remember now. It's something related to the amount of computers you have represented in a constant based on a singular state of Stephen's collection. So you can calculate your own Hackett number based on that.
Right.
There's a similar thing in the Relay Discord called the Hurley number, which is about your keyboard collection based on a constant state of my keyboard collection at one point. Yeah, I have a lot of domain names, as you can tell.
It seems so. Merely 8 times what I have.
Yeah.
Gracious. Your annual bills, I know it's probably over
horrible.
the course of the entire month,
really bad.
but that's a lot.
Especially because there is a certain time of the year when most of them renew, which is like in the summer. It's when all of the membership domains renew.
Indeed.
Which includes all of those Mortex ones. And then I have like ones that were like for an episode once, like we did askupgradeoutloud.com. where we had listeners submit video, like audio of them asking their Ask Upgrade questions. We should do that again at some point because I have this domain name.
That's true. You might as well justify it.
So I might as well just it. Allofthemacs.com. I don't even know what that is. Some of them is like, I know these are like, these are jokes for something, but who could even tell what they are? I also have, so obviously my product, the Sidekick Notepad. People think I say Psychic Notepad.
I was one of them.
I own psychicnotepad.com. For this reason. You got to prepare yourself.
That's very good.
I have a Casey Liss question for you right here. It comes from Mark. Mark wants to know, how much extra would you be willing to pay for a cellular Mac? So I'm thinking of the option. How much would you be willing to pay to add on top of the price of a Mac laptop for it to have cellular connectivity?
All right, hold on. I got to log into my bank to see how much free money I have in my bank account
really?
right now,
Like,
because
so
it is
how much
all
more?
of it.
How much more? Like, what is a like realistic surcharge that you would be willing to have?
I think $200 or less, I'm not even blinking an eye. I think
All
at
right.
$500, I'm starting to think, is it really worth it? I want this so badly. And for those that are really into tethering, this probably sounds nuts. And for those that don't ever work outside of like a building, this sounds bananas. And to be fair, since COVID has been settled down, I'm not going to sit here and try to say it's gone away, but since it's settled down, I will go into the library. I will go into Wegmans, the local grocer that has a really nice cafe area with tables and whatnot. And so I don't necessarily need this as much as I did during COVID times, where I would only want to go outdoors to a park bench, don't call it a picnic table, or to, somewhere else. But nevertheless, like if I'm a passenger in a car, particularly like on a long car ride, I'm likely to want to get a little bit of work done. And it would be phenomenal to just open the lid on my Mac and effectively instantly have an internet connection. I would genuinely pay at least a couple $100. And I think around the $500 mark is where I would probably go, maybe tethering is the right answer. You know what I mean? Like I would pay literally hundreds of dollars to have this option. And it would probably completely neuter my battery, dramatically affect my battery life. Don't care. It's worth it, especially with the Apple Silicon when you have all that extra battery life anyway. I want this so badly. I would do almost anything for it. I want it. Give it to me, please.
Yeah, I find tethering just like not in that like automatic tethering not to be a very good experience.
I wouldn't say I'm a unicorn, but it works for me more often than it doesn't, but it doesn't work enough that it isn't annoying. Does that make sense? It's still just annoying enough that I absolutely want for this. And plus the other thing with tethering is now instead of destroying one battery, you're now destroying two batteries. You're destroying the battery of the device you're using and the battery of the device that you're tethering to. And I just don't like it. I just don't dig that. And so, yeah, I would absolutely, without a shadow of doubt, I would love for this to be an option.
Maybe one day you'll get exactly what
man
you want.
can dream.
You'll get your tethering Mac. I'm not convinced that they will ever do it at this point.
I don't think they will. I think we're more likely to get a touchscreen Mac than we are a Mac with cellular built in. But for me, I would vastly prefer a cellular-enabled Mac over a touchscreen Mac.
I would like to provide some really important real-time follow-up that's just been sent to me to wrap up today's episode. Jason Snell was on Good Morning America this morning.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah.
As like
serious.
A random passerby, or is
nope.
featured?
It's to do with the eclipse. And so Jason was part of a video package. I think he called in from an airport. About what to expect for a solar eclipse. I think it was like a pre-recorded thing. I put a link in the show notes. It's called What to Expect for a Total Solar Eclipse. And Jason features in this video around the 2-minute and 50-second mark. And so he's calling in, talking about his eclipse experiences.
How did this happen? It's Jason Snell. What is happening?
I know
right
how
now?
this happened. I will allow for Jason to tell that
of course,
story
of course.
if he wants to tell that story.
Yeah, definitely. But oh my good gracious, that's incredible.
So
that is so funny.
If people want to watch Jason, Good Morning America, clearly he's upgraded from this show.
Right? I'd say
he's not interested in this show anymore. He just wants to be on morning shows instead. He's like, upgrade? No way. Put me on GMA only. And that's where he is in his life,
GMA Today.
GMA
oh my
Today.
Word. That's incredible.
I think that's where DMA Today comes from. It's one of those things. I don't remember which one it was. USA? No, it's USA Today. It's this.
Yes, the newspaper. Wow, that's bananas. I can't believe that. That's so cool.
If you would like to send in a question for Jason and I to answer on next week's episode, or you have any
will he be
feedback
back? We don't know.
Who knows?
He's
yes,
now
maybe.
a national sensation.
He's
Who
just
knows?
a correspondent now. Jason's been discovered. But if he is back, you can send your questions in at upgradefeedback.com. Thank you to Casey for filling in for Jason this week. If you want to find Casey's work online, go to CaseyLiss.com. You should check out his app Call Sheet in the App Store, and you can hear Casey's podcasts ATP and also Analog, which is on Relay FM. with me.
Mm-hmm.
So if you enjoy the two of us together, you can listen to a show that's us every month just talking. Really, it's just talking about our lives. It's just where Casey and I get together. We talk about what's going on in our lives. If you care about us, you'll probably enjoy that show. You can listen to my shows like Analog on Relay FM. You can check out my work at cortexbrand.com. You can find us online. Casey is at Casey Liss, CASEYLISS. That's Casey Liss. I am at Myke, IMYKE. You can watch video of this show, which this week includes Casey Liss, over on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, where we are at Upgrade Relay. Thank you to our members who support us of Upgrade Plus. Go to getupgradeplus.com to sign up. Thank you to our sponsors, Vitally, Fitbod, AdBlock Pro, and Delete Me. We'll be back next time. Casey, thank you for joining me. Say goodbye, Casey Liss.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me. Goodbye, everybody.